David Ducker coming back at you, and today I'm going to be talking about being the underdog, because it's not how you overcome, it's what you overcome. I also did a video, heroics versus super heroics, where I talked about this, but this will be a slightly different take on that. A lot of players come in and they want to win. They want to win big. They want to crush their enemies, see them driven before them, hear the lamentation of their women. I don't know where they get this idea. But when you do that, you're losing out on a lot of sympathy that you could be generating. I believe the Norse defined heroism as fighting against impossible odds. If you beat down a guy who had no chance against you, that's not being a hero. That's not being sympathetic. That's being a bully. That's being a villain. Even if you have a pretty good reason to beat this guy down, even if he's done some bad shit, if he doesn't have a chance, he's the one with the sympathy, not you. In that moment, you could build it up and build it up until the actual scene doesn't matter, because you've got so much build up that it's all going to work out. But a lot of GMs and players aren't good at that either. So an easier way to do it is just make sure when the time comes, you're the underdog. And this doesn't have to be in terms of the prep, of the build-up. I'm talking about the fight scene itself. So when you come in there, make sure in your descriptions to get the sympathy of your audience, to put your enemy over as being a badass, so when you beat him, you're an even bigger badass. Because if you beat somebody who's a total jobber, who are you? You just beat a jobber. But if that guy over there beat a badass, he must be a real badass. So always make yourself the underdog. Get the sympathy. And an easy way to do that, the only way to do that, is with your descriptions of the combat. Of course, I did my combat, fighting styles, and finishing moves, where I believe I broached this topic as well, but it deserves its own video, and that's what it's getting right here. So, Mike Lopez, one of my strongest players, he designed a character whose fighting style always made him the underdog. He's super defensive. He's got a shield and a mace and a lot of guts. He goes in, he's not fast, he doesn't have reach. He's not a very good fighter, in fact, in terms of being technically proficient. He's not big, he's not strong, but he's tenacious. He holds his shield out. He takes the pain, the punishment. He takes it all in and never quits. And when his opponent makes that error, when they get tired, that's when the mace to the face pays off again for Ulrich Berengar. That's his character that he was playing in Return of the Rune Fangs. And often it would go like, Mike, make your attack roll. He'd make his roll. Actually, I have dice. I don't need imaginary dice. Real dice, son! I have props! And he'd make his attack roll. He'd look down and he'd say, okay, I've succeeded with 3 degrees. And I said, great, describe your attack. And instead of saying, I smash him in the head with my mace, he'd say, well, the man comes in with his spear. He's poking, he's prodding at me. He's trying to find my weakness. And I'm coming up with the shield and down and left and right. And it looks like he's going to find his way through my defense. I'm taking so many thrusts and jabs. I've got to be wearing out. I've got to be getting tired. And then just when that chink appears, my shield comes a little too high because my shoulder is getting tired and I'm overcompensating. The spear comes in low, but it was a feint. And I drop my shield on the spear and I roll forward and bring the mace right down on his head. And I fucking crush his skull in. I said, great, excellent. And moving on. And we'll come to the next turn. And he could have just said, I crush his skull. It was easy. Fuck him. But he didn't. He made that guy look like a badass. So when he beat that guy, he looks even better. And that's all you need to do. That's the name of the game. When you have to describe how you succeed, first describe your setbacks, what you overcome. And it's the same thing when you describe getting injured, because a good GM should say, okay, you've been struck for 10 points of damage, 2 degrees of success, whatever it is. Describe how you get hit. The GM will give you the chance to show your weakness. And that's, again, when Mike can come in and describe just the brutality of the beatdown that's coming down onto his ass, so that when it comes around to his turn, he looks like an even bigger hero by overcoming, by coming out on top, by becoming the top dog. But first you have to be the underdog, or else you're just a dog, and nobody wants to play as a dog, unless it's a furries game, but I don't truck to that. So, again, when you're getting beat on, you describe your weakness, because then we can get sympathy on your character. Describe your enemy's strength. If it's an orc, describe how he's overpowering you with brutal savagery, and you're a finesse fighter. You've got a rapier, and you're parrying his scimitar. You parry it down, and then he punches you in the face. And that's not something a Diestro would be expecting. You stagger back, my face! He's cheating! And then the orc comes in, knee strike to the gut. You drop to your butt, boot to the head from the orc. You go rolling across the ground. That can all be the orc's turn, and it will come back through to your turn. You roll your dice, say, okay, I'm on the ground, I'm beat down, I got kicked in the face, kneed in the gut, punched in the mush. So I've got the sympathy. Everybody, oh, is he going to make it? Everyone's concerned. They care because it looks like it's dangerous. And then, of course, the orc comes in, the scimitar. He runs at you to cut you in half bodily. And that's when the Diestro comes up. He's on the ground, up with the rapier, the reach, the momentum of the orc, and the orc is impaled. And you manage to get your heat back and say, God damn, these orcs are badass, but not as badass as me. And then you'll spit your teeth out. Oh, it's my mouth. It's so much more exciting rather than saying, okay, well, he slashed me because he's somehow a better fencer than I am, I guess. His sword fighting skill beat my parry skill, so I'll just describe that as him being a better fencer than me, which kind of buries you as a fencer. And that, or you could describe it like, oh, I had my guard down and I wasn't paying attention, in which case you look somewhat foolish. But put him over, but you don't want him to be over you in an area that doesn't make sense. Like the orc, he's better than the fencer because he's a brawler. He's brutal because he's strong and big. But he should not be over because he's a better swordsman. That'll kill your gimmick. So never kill your gimmick, but get the sympathy. Find a way. Say, how could his character be better than my character? What is his strength? Or you can say, what is my weakness? If it's like an endearing weakness. If you're coming in and saying, I've got the twin daggers, and I've got this furious assault. I'll never let up, and I'll never stop trying to kill this man. I'm going to stab him 1,000 times if I need to. But you could say, oh, well, the reason he hit me, or the reason I missed, is because I'm over-aggressive. I've overcommitted. I'm leaning forward with all my weight, throwing these knives nonstop. But he's managed to get his shield up. He dropped down and reached under his shield. I didn't see his arm maneuvering because the shield blocks my vision just as much as my dagger strike. So the shield comes up. He drops down. Got the shield on my chest. He reaches in with his arm, his other arm, and hooks me, fireman carry. Now I'm on my ass on the other side of him. So you can be over aggressive, but that can be a very endearing weakness. You can say, oh, he's over aggressive. Good, I like that. Testosterone. A lot of people will really like that, and some people will say, well, he's an idiot, and that's fine as long as he's a realistic and well-rounded character. But show that ass. Show your weakness. Let the bad guy go over on you just enough to where he looks awesome and you look in danger, and then turn the tables at the last minute. That last minute save, that will be the best fight scene. And you could always just bring it back to pro wrestling. Hulk Hogan would get the shit kicked out of him for the entire match, and then at the very end, he kick out, he gets his second wind, he hulks up, he blocks the punch of his own, off the ropes, big foot to the mush, the leg drop, and it's over. And, he did that constantly, all the time, every match. He gets beat up, then he makes the comeback, because he's got the guts and the heart to make that comeback, because the people were behind him. So get the people behind you by being that underdog, showing the sympathy of your character. It'll make your combat scenes really pop. When you can say, how do I succeed? I succeed by overcoming adversity, not by being better than everybody else. So that's my thought. Those are my ideas on the fight scene, how to make them the best in the most easy manner possible, the formula to follow. I'm sure there are exceptions. I'm sure you can get away with other things, but this is kind of my default and my go-to, so I thought that I would share it with you. And let me know in the comments below what you think about being the underdog, why you like it, why you don't like it, why you think Superman is way better than Batman, because Superman always wins, he never loses, bullets bounce off of him, he has super speed to save the girl. And Batman always gets the shit kicked out of him. I don't fucking want to be Batman. I'm sure he wins at the end, but the way he gets there is, less dignified. But we're not always looking for dignity. We're looking for drama. So until I see you again, good day and good gaming.